Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Cheers. Get rid of this one here.
We're a little crowded just because the camera's set up kind of weird today.
Get up, get up. It's actually because we were going for the Western comedy approach, and we wanted to start the show by all kind of talking.
Yeah, rustling for space.
You know, as our names came on, we
and then we freeze.
wave, and they hold frame.
Yep, high five it in the air.
Something like that.
Yep.
Ow. This is the very special number 32 Fireside Chat, wherein we have no preparation. Okay, that's a lie. There's some preparation, but
Absolutely.
We are definitely fly by night today.
yeah, this is lore by night day. Lore by night. So get your questions ready. Any strange and wonderful things you want to know that aren't like, what is the dude who runs the gate between 1 and 5 p.m. on a mid-switch's name? Because I'm not going to tell you that.
Actually, if it's 4 Crowns Rock, I could answer that, but it would be a massive
I could
pain in
answer
my
that too.
ass.
I could answer that because I probably named
Because
that.
you'd have to look up that thing.
Because he named that guy. Yeah.
I named that.
Fair cop.
On the other hand, you know, what's Skeletor's name? Maybe not.
Yeah.
We're not going to
plus,
tell you Skeletor.
Skeletor's not going to tell you his name is Skeletor. He's going to tell you his name is S. Tori. You know, and then he's going to tell someone else his name is Sam. It's only if you go, wait a minute.
It's the
That's
urban
Tori
legend that comes
And
afterwards.
Sam both have that rubbery thing on their. I think they may be Skeletor.
Yeah.
You know, something.
And Skeletor
Yeah,
probably
it's actually
comes
more
out from some gazette or somewhere. It's not actually a name that he ever implied himself.
It's true. Could be more.
It's probably
the
a
whole time.
urban legend
They
thing.
both have bone faces.
Yeah.
Just like in reality, the Phantom Killer, for instance. The Phantom Killer never called himself the Phantom Killer, and Jack the Ripper never actually called himself Jack the Ripper. It was a copycat that then the Gazette went, oh, that's a good name! And then they applied it there, and then later on, hundreds of years later, there was a note, and the note that had the Jack the Killer thing in it, which we thought was an actual Jack the Killer note, turned out to be a copycat. And anyway, that's a tangent. Bad guys like Skeletor generally have names like Skeletor because of us, not because of them.
Right. Yeah. The Phantom Killer in Texarkana didn't call himself.
That's what I was just saying.
Right. Another example would be that the Anasazi did not call themselves ancient enemy.
Right.
Right.
You know, actually, you're not supposed to call them
No,
that
because
anymore.
they're native Puebloans. I know that. That's
Now
my
they are the
point.
native
My point
Puebloans.
is, we were calling them a bad word the whole time because we didn't even know.
That's because history comes
Comrade,
down to who keeps
the
the
god
history.
of death in Theleston is Anima. Anima is the god of life and the god of death. The only underworld-esque place I know of is Anima's realm, and honestly, it's not really the underworld, as is if you wake up in Anima's realm, you are lucky enough to have a chance to maybe be able to get out of Anima's realm and revive yourself. If you
Re-embody.
re-embody yourself.
Live again.
Yeah. Other than that, after like true death, do they have an idea of what happens to you? Is there like a reincarnation myth or
we know that,
something like? What is the underworld to people after Theleston? Not after Theleston, but after Anima's realm.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
But
What's the myth? What do people think?
they think that you are taken back into the arms of Anima
Permanently, though.
forever.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Interesting.
I have an idea of what that means because I know what Anima does.
Right. But also, Anima has an
I know how
aspect-
Anima works, you see.
Anima has an aspect of death.
Indeed.
You know, the one that takes your hand at the end.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, mostly faceless too.
Does that aspect have a name?
It's just Anima.
Or is it
Yeah.
Anima that's just when you see her like that?
Yeah,
You know?
it's Anima who is taking you, exactly.
Yeah.
See, it's more like so in Hawaiian myth, there's a god called Ku. And actually all of the Hawaiian main gods have names that are like, so like Ku is a warrior god, right? But if you were talking about him, you would talk about him in a sense. So it would be like Ku who steals back the land.
Yeah, right.
Right. So Kapo isn't always Kapo. Sometimes she's Kapo Kohelele.
Right.
Right. And we don't need to translate that. But that's when she's doing a particular thing. And so
The reverse Trump.
absolutely. Exactly. It's what it is, aptly named. So anima is described, as an anima life giver or anima reaper, anima taker. And doing whatever she's doing.
Also, Sailkit, I'm not ignoring it. Sorry, I'm not forgetting about it. I'm deliberately ignoring it.
Rose knows who Kappa de Kohelele is.
Oh, yeah, I kind of do too.
Not even day. That's my Spanish sneaking in.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think that's how her name was.
I'm just the dumbass Holly, so.
But you've actually done more research in that regard. I have.
Oh,
So, hey,
those are the questions that we are looking for.
Yeah, all that sort of
We
questions.
should also
keep
justify
them,
our
yeah,
jobs,
exactly.
so.
Say keep those questions, write them down, and get them ready, and throw them in there, and all this. Because in the meantime, talk about what we've been doing this week. What have we been doing this week?
We started this end last time.
Yeah, mostly I've been writing. Also a little bit of writing, and then some arting.
Yeah, some arting. I saw. I was
Yeah.
participant in the arting. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah,
The
I don't want
arting's-
to. I don't want to show anything off.
No,
yeah,
should not.
Wait. We'll wait. But it's fun and it's cool and it's rare that I get to do stuff like that.
It
So.
has to do with awesomeness, right? And,
Yeah.
and things that are coming up that are also influencing us to say things like we should get shirts out. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And
exactly.
Happy last feast, everyone.
Happy last
coming
feast.
up on the last feast.
Actually, if Theleston had started on the 1st of January,
Yeah.
I'm almost positive that Last Feast would have started. Maybe it's next week, actually.
Might be next
I think
week.
It's next week. 21st it is. It's next week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we'll be rolling.
Yeah.
So
But Last Feast starts soon.
last feast very soon.
But all the writing I hear that you're doing is also for the player's guide, right?
Yep, exactly.
Which is pretty damn cool. Getting that shit done.
Yep.
There was some
So
code
many
doors.
lists we're gonna have to write. So many lists. Well, yeah, I always code. I've been working on the divination card app.
Mhm.
And actually, I heard that somebody had a question about that.
Oh yeah.
Did
About
you say that there was a question?
There
multiple
was a
card
question.
usage.
Yes.
and,
Well, it was kind of a compound question. There was a question in the Discord that was, what are the plans for the futures of the cards? How do the cards tie in with other Theleston properties? And how readily could we get the bot to be doing more complicated readings?
Yeah.
Well, I can answer a bunch of those questions. So the divination the divination card app is already being built with the idea of handling multiple readings of various layouts and types. In fact, last stream we were kind of talking about taking that maybe even a step further and doing like compounded chain readings. As part of a discussion about doing a reading, setting those cards aside, doing
And then a reading on the reading.
Right.
Mhm.
So the functionality will be coded basically in the next couple of weeks. There's no reason why that couldn't carry over to the bot. The hard part would be entering the data so that anybody could add a reading to the bot. Like that would be hard to do.
Sure.
Just because the chat interface would be all that you would have, and that would be very hard.
Right.
But on the back end, I can just author it
Build.
by hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I imagine that there's another issue with how much spam gets put into the channel for one reading.
Sure. The bot throttles itself, so it'll never get cut off for
Nice.
spamming. But that doesn't change that it is spammy.
Yeah.
So, we wanted to change how it did the readings. We might want it to say less, not more.
I can see that. We were also discussing like you would have to have the bot dictate to the person getting the reading what the card position and representation were. So it would be like along the lines of, this card represents your past. It says, etc., etc. This card represents you, the reader. So as to get the position of where things are and what they actually represent in the reading.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. In the meow, for example, we originally, I'm answering Rose's question, by the way. I should probably read that out loud because we don't have this chat up.
That's true. I was saying, what's up, Adventure Time World?
So-
Welcome to the show.
Rose asked, would there ever be the possibility where later on players would be able to add their own special or unique cards into the div deck as their PnP campaign unearthed them? So, yes. The data structure is already there. The system itself doesn't care about how many cards are in each deck, so there's no reason why the app can't do that other than we haven't built the interface for doing it. Your own layouts and your own cards, however, are in my plans. So that you could, as a player, put the cards anywhere you wanted on the table, save their locations as a layout, right? And then you can run that layout again automatically anytime that you wanted to.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and likewise with regard to the pen and paper, I mean that's as easy as deciding with your narrator what the cards are going to be, and and making them out of either paper or, I mean, I guess ideally we could ship blank cards at some point in the future with the deck. So like maybe when you buy your physical copy of the div deck, you get 5x,
Probably 6, because that would be.
Thank you for those
90
links,
cards.
Space
90
Anna.
perfect, exactly, right. Yep, and thanks for hooking it up, Rose. But yeah, and you could get some blank cards that you could fill out and make your own special cards, because the storyline always had rare cards in it.
Right.
I mean, with the Meow, it's as simple as authoring individual items and putting them into the DB. But
Yeah.
since pen and paper, the database exists in your head.
Well, your head needs some books, but
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
But yeah, so in the lore, the idea would be any of these found cards become part of what we call the Lost Arcana, which is, we don't know where these cards came from, but we know that they work,
Yeah.
So the Lost Arcana isn't its own set necessarily so much as a collection of recovered cards from the past. So the fiction would be that's, you had found a card of the Lost Arcana that nobody else had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Then it just gets included in your deck, or maybe
Well,
your narrator keeps
There's
it.
so many stories there too, because you could also go like somebody could think they found a Lost Arcana card because it seems to work, but then it could be a card maybe left there by our old friend Naralehotep.
Not
just
a
to
divination
fuck
card
with
at
you.
all.
Yes.
Right.
It works with the cards, but isn't really a card.
Perhaps it's a person in spirit imprisoned in the card.
Oh, jeez.
Right, and now what's it doing? It's going to go Tom Riddle with it. Who knows? But yeah, there's a lot of lore and potential storyline built in around the div cards, which is cool. Likewise, they play into the hidden object puzzle adventure.
Absolutely.
Under development in Discord by our crack Hopa team. Cheers to you guys.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
So, does that conclude your report, sir?
Yeah. For the moment, we want to talk someday about how we're going to print these, and someday's probably only a few months away.
Yep. And we did do some research into printing a kind of card,
All kinds of cards.
and then another kind of card.
Yeah.
So, I have some templates from a company that does on-demand decks.
Yeah, I was going to say, the printers that we looked at today don't really handle that kind of work.
Mhm.
But that said, that's the next step for divination cards that isn't like the stuff I do on my Thursday stream. Because
Yeah.
that's really the only time the divination card app gets worked on, because I'm pushing on the player's guide on my work days.
Yeah.
So the next place that we're likely to publish anything div card related is the cards themselves, because all they need is art right now.
Correct.
Right? So it's a matter of finding the art for the cards. And because of the work on the app, we're closer to that than we used to be.
Yeah. And we have probably 3. I think we've said it multiple times. We have 3 like pat card backs that we could just be like, use that and grab.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as far as fronts, it's really a matter of the style. Picking a style, and I just don't feel that so far that my own talent is good enough. Maybe I'll renege on that and feel different later.
You know what might be interesting?
Got a ship.
We might be able to find somebody who will do line art cheaper than a finished piece,
Sure.
Mhm.
right? And then we can color the line art ourselves.
Yep. I'm down to try.
You know what I mean? We could even kind of make a contest of it, present him kind of as a coloring book. Hey, that's an idea.
Indeed.
Interesting.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, we could maybe generate the art in ways that we hadn't considered.
Mhm.
Hold on, I gotta make a note.
Anyway. This week, I did mostly writing, and a lot of writing, and like him, some more writing. All this writing's been done for the player's guide, mostly skills and combat skills. Um, I'm currently on mounted combat skills, so we're learning about horsemanship. We're not calling it cavalry or chivalry because too French, not Theleston. Other than that, though, I've been off time working on the second part to The Mercenary and the Matchmaker. If you guys like that story, you know that it's written by me. And so the second part is being written on ahead of time so that when Omwa gets his story out for the month and then Snipe Hunter gets his story out for the next month, that my story will already be in pre-production and ready to be published, or, you know, close. It should be ready by that point, honestly. If it's not, it's because on my spare time I've been a slack ass and not writing enough. I've also, of course, been doing the Twitch stuff, and I've been kind of slack. I was telling them I feel bad about slacking on the Steam end of the group, even though I know it's not an important, like highly important front for the DOP crew or Skyward Star. It does get some attention out there, so I'm going to be working on Steam events and doing that every single day because last week and the week before I've been getting kind of sloppy. You guys, you know, notice that those things aren't getting put up, feel free to poke me about making more Steam events. Thank you. But that's mostly what I've been doing. Writing and, you know, web mastery stuff. What about you?
All right. I also work on backstory of the world and specifically with regard to naming and delineating areas on the map. I've been setting the map up for titling. I'm actually going to begin doing tonight during Verday's Doobie Cruise stream. I will be recording myself doing titling of towns and landmarks in red ink in script.
That should be super cool.
Should be super cool. Aside from that, I've been writing my Highlity story, and we'll be finishing that up as soon as my fingers will allow it to happen. Because it's all schemed, it's just filling in. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, is filling, getting the words in. Struggling with dialogue because dialogue. And working on that. I have a piece of cool stuff I already made that goes with this story. So when the story publishes, the piece of cool stuff goes out. I also have some other cool stuff that just needs to get stuck in an envelope and sent. But I've been saying that for a couple weeks, so
yeah.
Send it.
Getting up on the deadline.
I know. So that's what I've been up to. Making stuff, writing about the stuff I make, talking to you about it. Yeah. Hanging out with the Oracles folks.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was super cool.
It was a fun conversation this weekend.
It was. Yeah, this weekend was cool. The week before, however, that was the happening.
Yeah, the mega show.
Happenstance, the mega show. That was pretty great.
Yeah, it was.
They were talking about maybe doing something.
Again?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
A little
Someday.
something.
Yeah.
Someday.
I just gotta know about the week ahead of time, so I can set up and be there. Happy to do it.
Thanks for having us, Legend.
Yeah, always fun.
Yeah, Nero.
It was cool sitting here and doing it, you know, right here in the fireside, rather than having to put my curtain up midday.
I was like, given everything else that failed before that, I was actually surprised that worked.
Yeah, so that was cool. And that just spawned a bunch of questions, stuff to put in the book.
The book.
So, we know that the what's what I'm looking for. We know that the player's guide is probably, let's call it 45% done, right? With the bulk of what's left being lists,
Right.
What about the rest of the set?
The
Like
source book.
Yeah.
Well, we lack art.
Like if you were to give an overall progress on the RPG set, how far do you think we are?
I would say the source book probably has 25%, and that's not counting art content in.
Yeah.
That's not counting.
It's not bad though.
No, it's not bad. I don't think it's.
Given how little focus it's gotten right now.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, and it's the next thing we roll on to. Plus, we can begin our live testing and our actual play of the game before that's done, because
Correct.
right
Yeah.
because I will be narrating
data's
and the data's up here.
Right.
So the real hindrance to getting that is finishing out the map and finishing out the player's guide, because once the map's done, then you know where all the sections are, you know where all the regions, and I mean that's the map. Divide it up into regions, which it already is, and then just put chapter headings on each one, tell the story of each, the history that needs to be said, and roll. You know, put a small bestiary in the back.
Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna do
Until you publish the
Are you
actual
gonna
bestiary book.
regionalize the bestiary entries, like in this area you
Yes.
can find?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that was my thought.
Of course.
So my plans for the world book, so to speak, the Atlas book, is to take the actual map and again just call the regions that I've already sort of named based on what I was going to call the region for the Meow.
Yep.
So I have the localities basically already named, so just gotta call them out. This is this region, this region, this region. Tell about the main city in that area, the people that live there, the bits of the ancient history that I want to share, what the state of affairs is now, and then the bestiary for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
And then roll
Yeah, it
that
does.
forward. I gotta finish my fiction.
How's that coming?
Pretty good. Yeah, like I said, I've got the
Yeah, but you've had the plot.
plot
for a little
done
while.
for ages. Now it's just making the words.
Cool. So what do you guys
So-
want to talk about?
Yeah, for lore time.
Yeah, I mostly have questions about
my cup changed.
Yeah, it's
this
hyper
does- yeah. Mostly have questions for just like, I don't know, they're broad and they're about the people of Theleston. They're less about, you know, a specific entity or job or stuff like that.
Sure.
Seemed like we didn't actually have a good, precise, entertaining topic other than just like people stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So our thought was that we would open it up to questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the
I
questions
thought
we
that was
have
a
is
good
like
idea.
regional cuisine. I'm pretty sure I handled most of the regional cuisine just piecemeal throughout our descriptions. Like when we talked about each town, I think we talked about the food of each town. What's up, Cryptic? That said, I mean we could run back over them real quickly. The one I had trouble recalling specifically was Skypass, but I believe that's because they didn't really have a regional food so much as
Yeah, what can you do with
what
they
can you
grow?
do where they live, and right, and so that's the most not exactly culturally dictated so much as dictated by the fact that they live someplace where nothing grows unless you grow it in a greenhouse, and you know I guess there's lichen, you know, but basically what you got is anything you bring up there yourself and grow, you know, mushrooms perhaps in a cave, but you're gonna have to haul the wood mulch or whatever you're, you know, the hay mulch or whatever you're growing
using,
the mushrooms on, because otherwise it's just stone, you know. So Skypass is probably the easiest because it's whatever you brought, and they probably have lots of pickles, you know,
Salted meats.
and
Okay.
salted meats.
Is there any cave fishing in Skypass?
I don't think so. I think you're high enough up that the only
Yeah,
waters
how
you're
would-
getting
how would that
ain't no
happen?
fish in you know. So
That
no.
could have evolved there.
Yeah, because I think geothermally, if you were to have any body of water at that height, it would be geothermally heated and
Right.
warm.
Creating the chemosynthesis necessary for life.
I don't know,
Yes.
man. I'm not thinking they got this guy past blind cave bass.
Yeah? I don't know, maybe.
So I think they're
I don't
actually
think
the
I don't
easiest.
think you played enough Stardew Valley, that's all.
Yeah.
because the people of Skypass don't have their own,
Ew.
Grim
Sale.
sale.
Gross, but probably.
Grim. And maybe they do have some, you know,
Yeah.
high altitude bird, but
Yeah.
it's probably some sort of
Like albatross.
rule against whacking down the tall. Yeah. That said, we can move it like Fall Creek, right? What's Fall Creek? Dried fish, nuts, and berry paste, nut berry pastes, the fruits of the forest.
It's like
So
chutneys.
yeah, exactly. You know, it's
Rabbit.
made of
Game.
certainly game, but I think how do you preserve it, right? Smoked.
What cooking
Roasted.
is,
Well, actually,
is-
Fall Creek, though, From what you've described, because it seems like it's in a little basin, right, where the town is spread across where the lake is,
Sure.
right? Because a lake would have to gather at the lowest point in a place on a mountain,
Kinda sure.
so it would have to be some kind of caldera kind of thing.
Sure.
And so, because I imagined it that way, I imagined that they would not be on bedrock the same way the people up in Sky Pass and us here in Colorado
Yeah,
are
they
in the
have
mountains.
dirt, yeah.
So that they have dirt that they can dig, and thus they actually have some sort of refrigeration, but not for super long
Oh,
periods
you
of
mean
time.
like cellars?
Yes, that's what I meant.
Well, that's how they built their homes. So
Well, yeah, but I meant they would have cellar technology as
of
well.
some sort-ish. They don't have a cellar beneath their home,
No, but a root preserve.
but they do have because their home is so they don't build a floor. But sure, okay, so
Well, no, that's what I was saying. So less salted meat, they could still have.
they could have roots and things. Absolutely.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what I meant.
absolutely do.
Yeah.
And fruits, and pastes of the nuts, berries, etc.
Yeah.
And all like compotes or that sort of thing. Also, the game, we coat the game in that sort of
Of
stuff
course, yeah.
to preserve it.
So roasts.
Right, roasted, etc. Smoked, dry, nut crusted, that sort of thing. So there you go. And they drink
Served in what style?
beers, meads, etc. Do you mean like family style versus
Well,
individual
No, let's say
portions
like
versus...
I travel there,
Yeah,
right? And I go
and you get to a traditional dinner.
common room or something,
Yeah,
right?
And I get myself a roast.
Right, and I order,
Whoa.
the rabbit. What do I get back?
Well,
Do
so
I
if
get
you're
a
in a-
soup, do I get a stew?
if you're in a
Do I get
Traveler's Inn?
roast? Do I get a sandwich?
if you're at a Traveler's Inn, you get a plate.
Fritters,
Yeah, you get a plate. It probably has it has cut meat on it, like and a pile of the paste or the other thing, all on a thing for you. If, however, you're visiting someone there and you're actually in their home, it's served on a long board because multiple families tend to live together. They eat on one communal table that they all feed themselves from.
Yeah.
So bowing to the
buffet style.
it would be more buffet style for the native people living amongst themselves in their long home.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a Traveler's Inn that isn't capitalizing on the fact that you came to Fall Creek for the Falkirk life,
Right.
it's going to be an individual portion of their specialties served on a
Right.
sort of
What are
plate.
those specialties?
Oh, well, they're like paste coated meat sliced after being roasted.
Yeah.
Right, or a smoked meat, in which case it's torn up with a pile.
Yeah, so likely he's saying if you were to order a rabbit, what you would get would probably be a roasted rabbit, probably juicy kind of meat with a paste that you could then use as a condiment, like ketchup or something to put to the side. It's probably even
Is
breaded.
it put to the side?
It's
Is it
probably
yeah,
even
so
breaded
the
like
the
pork
paste
chops
is-
and applesauce.
The paste is, the applesauces and that kind of thing, a pile on the side. The pork
A
chop would be
Falkirk
crusted
might,
if it were roasted.
yeah, a Falkirk,
Or it would
if
be
they
torn
had-
up if it was, shredded if it was smoked.
If I'm right, a Falkirk who served himself pork chops and applesauce, which would be, fruit paste,
and applesauce.
and then boar chops, right? He would dip the boar chop in applesauce.
Potentially.
That would be a cultural thing. That's how a Falkirk would eat. Is
Potentially
eating
would
that.
use the meat to scoop the paste, might use the flatbread to scoop the paste.
Oh,
and then put the
flatbread.
meat-
That's an addition. See, that's
Oh, so
So I
they
have a
might
list
also
here.
have
I
flatbread. They don't have loaf
I didn't
bread.
get there. Everybody has a bread. Every culture has a
Of
bread.
course, yes. Is it flat?
Most
or
of them
loaf?
are flat.
Okay.
But that has to do with how you bake, and they don't really have a lot of ovens in the Falkirk custom, so their breads are generally flat, not risen, not
Absolutely.
fired.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. They could probably even cook their flatbreads
I wrote it down.
in the same rooms that they cook some of their meats, because some of their meats, like smoke boxes, would have to be in houses or buildings
No, outside.
dedicated to being hot enough.
Outside,
So they don't smoke their meat.
not in the
I'm not saying home. I'm saying
So more like Buccaneers.
there are.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So okay. They don't have buildings. They don't have a smokehouse, because a smokehouse is a house built for smoking
none
meats.
of that.
Okay. It's not a house, a home that you live in that you also
Yeah.
smoke your. What the fuck? You would smoke a meat in your house, dude? That's fucking madness.
You can do that too, but no, they don't. do
No, you would have a house that you would build for smoking meat on
Right.
an industrial scale.
But
They don't.
smokehouse.
Yeah, but no,
Yes.
they don't. They use it like a Native
Legal
American.
one.
They have
Yes.
a stand,
Yes.
a smoking stand probably next to your house because each longhouse probably has their own supply of smoked meats for everybody.
Yes.
Kind of like their fridge or pantry.
Yes.
So
So then,
yeah,
the Leary stuff.
absolutely.
Well, and then I
actually,
did say about the
Do
Felker.
the Falkirk
Here's
have
the
any? Did the Falkirk have any culture of sharing? Well,
Yes.
but I mean, yes, of course. But I meant granary wise, like a grain house. Like, do they store food?
They don't have a communal
for-
food storage.
Okay. I was just
Except that their homes
have a,
contain more than one family.
Right.
okay,
and
so
they
their
store their foods in
homes
there.
have
But no granary.
their own.
But they don't have a granary over there. They have instead the grain loft in this home.
Yeah.
Full of grain.
And the only reason I asked before you move on to
I see sorts of-
the Valyri because that it sort of paints a picture of eating habit. Well, not only eating habit, but also dining habit as well, where
Yeah.
some people might make it a public event to go out and get your food and
Yeah.
then come home to eat.
Sure.
Right? It seems like the Falkirk are maybe a little bit more private in that.
Within
aspect.
their family unit.
Yeah,
So
when
like
it comes to eating, it's a family thing,
the
not
one
a.
long house.
It's not a
Right.
community thing. Eating.
Right,
is.
right.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, so it is community within your longhouse because the
Yeah,
longhouse
yeah.
is multiple.
What I meant is sociology-wise, there's familial, communal,
Right.
governmental. I think is after that, and that's after
Right.
you start talking about humans and shit like that.
Right.
Okay, that's just it's very it's interesting, and I think it's important to paint that part of their culture because in Valor, I bet they keep grain houses, grape houses, fucking like houses galore.
Certainly,
of food.
though in Valor, while
Yeah.
there is a grape warehouse, as a private grape warehouse,
Yeah.
you don't go there to get you some grapes.
Well, when it comes
No.
to grapes, there's probably more than one. But
Yeah,
right. And they're
absolutely.
family owned and or guild owned.
Yeah.
So
enterprise.
enterprise owned.
What are they eating Valor? You
So
were just gonna say.
I was. So we know they drink wines. They eat rich fruits. They eat grains, breads, leavened breads, baked breads, pastas, dumplings, and like they have a thing for fanciful nosh. You know, for
Notch.
little amusing things to eat. They take a lot of production to make one little bite of rich deliciousness.
Yeah.
So
And they like the idea of what did they call them in the medieval times? There's a word.
it's not hors d'oeuvre.
No. It's not even that anymore. It's a word for when they would make a food that looked like something entirely different than it was.
So like using ham in order to make your ham look like a roast duck because the high class were eating duck, but you were
Well, even among
more
the
like
Yeah.
amongst even the high class, making your fish paste look like a giant conch shell with a Venus standing above
holy
it,
shit.
right?
Okay.
And then you would cut that, and
Yeah.
oh, how delightful! It's actually fish
Absolutely.
loaf.
Yeah.
You know,
I
there's
would
a word
imagine
for it, and they would do them like they would use marchpane to make a crown, and then they would gild it, and it would be a gilded crown, but marchpane is almond paste,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
you slice it, and
sugar.
now it's a cake,
Yeah.
The Valyri like this sort of entertainment.
I'd imagine their sauces are more watered down than any Falkirk sauce.
Sure, yeah, and they
Hmm.
play with delicate stuff. I mean, Falkirk
It's an interesting
don't
one to
have a
cook because I bet you they use a wider variety of spice.
No, I
they
meant
absolutely do, but
wider
Falkirks
variety
don't
of
have
spice. I meant
a
for
custom
decorative
of
sauce. I
making
meant
saucy
condiment.
things.
Not a sauce, but a
They
condiment.
make pastes or crusts or whatever. And
Oh,
they don't
okay.
make gravy.
Okay.
Whereas the Valyri will try anything amusing. So they probably even have a flour accented orange, sugar something that you drizzle over a cake.
Yeah.
And yes, lots of vinegar as well. And all these different things. sauce-wise,
Do they-
amusing desserts.
Do they have something like chocolate? Is there a chocolate parallel on Blackwell? Different question, but
Actually,
they
I have
would
not
be the
said
place.
yes, and I don't think there is. I don't think we have cacao anywhere in Gray Shore.
Tea or coffee?
Certainly teas, and then you could grow coffee, I guess, if there was a.
No, the conditions
Cultivar,
are right
conditions are right,
for
yeah.
coffee in multiple places. For cacao though, nowhere really. Not.
Not even in Congarai. Like maybe Kalaja, maybe, but I don't
But it's
even
not
think
that
Kalaja
And I'm
is
not
the
even
right
sure
kind
that
of place.
Kalaja is the right climate
Not like
to be
jungle.
growing cacao.
Yeah, Kalaja, I always imagined it more like warmer boreal. So like Colorado, if it had been brought up a couple of
Fewer
California.
trees, too. Fewer trees.
Wow, even
Yeah.
fewer
It's
trees.
plains.
Yeah, and the flattest of plains.
Okay.
You know, like
So it's like Kansas.
Okay, no, absolutely.
knee-high
Ohio?
grass.
It's so bad. That's
Ohio?
Not, I don't really mean that when I say that. To be clear, that's me. That's hyperbole.
Ohio.
I just don't think that I just don't think that chocolate
Endless
has been
Wyoming.
exploited.
Without
I just
hills.
don't think it grew there. I think if it does, it grows
Well,
on
like
another
Kansas.
land we have not been at yet.
Okay.
and
I've never been to
haven't talked
Kansas.
about it
Kansas,
yet,
I see fields of
just
gold.
because it wasn't part of the
I thought it was green.
I
Columbia.
guess
Yeah.
Just a different brand.
genesis
Okay,
of
yeah,
what I had
absolutely.
been thinking. And then coffee would grow on mountainsides. So then that's the thing about Kalaja. So if we had coffee in Kalaja, it would grow on the mountain in the middle.
So nobody could get to it.
So right now there hasn't been
Well,
anyone able to
yeah, recently.
travel there for
Couple hundred years.
evers.
Several
You know,
So I guess really a long time.
and it would be the mountain Kalajans who are considered, you know, they were
Writers.
Well, no, myth.
Oh.
Secret. Nobody even knew they existed till last week when I said something about them.
You could grow coffee on Gray Shore.
I believe you could go coffee, but cacao, I have
Crowns
not.
Rock.
I don't know enough about.
I always thought Gray Shore was too cold for coffee.
No,
No,
Gray
no,
Shore is big, man. There's all sorts
Yeah.
of different places.
There are many climates on Gray Shore,
Yeah.
and
I use
amongst
Tide's
them would
End
be
as
the
my,
mountainside where you could grow coffee.
I use Tide's End as my middle ground place, and so I can see why I'm biased because Tide's End is.
It's absolutely
not
possible that
upstream
that
of
the coffee started on
It's
those
farther
mountainsides
from the
because
extreme.
again, it could grow on. I'm thinking of Kona styles or Blue Mountain styles. You know, especially coastal mountains. Coastal mountains can grow that sort of coffee. Just cacao, I have not put into the story anywhere. There isn't any.
Mhm.
So maybe it'll come on a boat someday, and it'll be a new alchemical thing, or maybe it'll just be candy because chocolate's awesome.
Yeah, they bring the drink with.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and then there's Aztecs, right?
Yeah.
Who also
Yeah.
Tenato, you know.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up is because those drinks and things seemed like the snooty stuff that the Baylor might eat, and so I just wanted to bring it up because chocolate, coffee, teas, they were an important factor in mundane world society. I was
True.
wondering if the Baylor had something like that or not. I'm sorry for bringing the tangent, but I thought it was an important question.
You know,
Bringing
I'll
up
bet you
the
could
tan-
grow sugarcane on the Calajan shores.
Sugarcane?
The North Calajan shores. The North Calajan shores, I'll bet you are a place you could grow sugarcane.
Probably what makes that swamp
Though
town.
I'll bet you the majority of sweeteners in
Relevant.
Gray Shore come from honey.
Beets.
Maybe something like a sugar beet that's grown in the down in the breadbasket-y area. You know,
Absolutely.
that's where you'd get your fermentables. You know, jicama maybe, but again, I think you wouldn't even get jicama except maybe up in Kalaja,
Yeah.
up in the plains. Maybe also the northern. I still think that's a little too far south. It might be too cold for a big sweet root. Maybe
But
up in the northeastern Gray Shore plains up there, might be able to do something there.
Maybe it's
cane
about
or-
rain.
Right, it really is about rain.
Yeah.
It is.
You
Absolutely.
could, however, make loads of a rum-like drink out of the dates because those have a really high sugar content.
Uh-huh.
So like I'm certain there is a gorai or a goravi a distilled beverage that is very
Date
like
wine.
a rum, very like a rum.
Yeah.
You know,
Or even
dried dates,
plum wine or
pulverize the dried
Yeah.
dates, make your
Or
mash
even
out
rum.
of that.
But the cane thing that you were talking about, that might
Sugar carrots.
that might be what makes the swamp town at the very bottom of Kalaja, might be what makes that town, and maybe if there are other towns like that place right there, because that town is where Kai comes from. It might be what makes that place relevant and even survive, is the fact that they cane harvest in their swamp.
No, not
No.
sugarcane.
Okay. Yeah.
Sugarcane needs sun too.
Yeah.
sun and rain. Yeah,
Sun and rain.
Yeah. So you got the water, but we don't have enough sun.
Don't have enough sun.
it's like
Right.
sweet bamboo.
It's not.
But it's very
But
close.
yeah, it can in ways it is, right. So I'm thinking
Sorry.
the only place you could really cultivate a sugarcane like plant would be North Kalaja. And I'm thinking probably cacao and vanilla like things would come from somewhere to the north even of that on the planet,
Yeah,
across the sea,
that makes sense.
where things get a little more humid and warm all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Other side of the equator.
Sky Pass or Vela that are not anywhere else.
And no?
Certainly honey. Bastet, Set, but Set is not widely
Considered.
well, just not widely openly worshipped, because there's some activities associated with the worship of Set that
People frown upon.
people frown upon.
You ever seen Conan?
And I'm certain that there are a couple of others in my pantheon that I haven't focused and blown out yet, but I intended there to be 3 or 4 animal-headed gods that left over from the Colossian diaspora, and the rest are hidden, and I know where they're hidden, but I'm not telling you.
Language. Diaspora. Yeah,
That's kind of what that means.
yeah, absolutely.
It's connotation.
So, you were on the Veiler with food-wise. The
I was.
Veiler, they like fancy distracting foods,
Yep.
playing with their foods, finger foods.
Gosh.
They probably like really long utensils too. So like that French fork with the really, really long prongs that they pick
Swiss.
up. That's a Swiss fork. That's not
Fondue
French.
bowls.
Oh yeah, it is fondue. Oh, thanks.
Playing fondue with the long fork.
Probably
You
not.
fondant
because
with your fingertips.
because they probably don't do cheese, right?
The Veiler wouldn't do cheese.
Well, there's no
Well, they're-
cheese trade really.
in fact, cheese is
I thought they're totally
probably the only places where you'll find a lot of cheeses.
because we had shit tons of
Maybe
goats.
Sky Pass, where you preserve your milks.
Yeah,
I would imagine
okay.
Sky Pass,
Crowns Rock.
Crowns Rock,
because
and then
everything has
as
to
a
be shipped
result
there.
of trade tides in.
Yeah.
Holy shit. No,
much.
that's
Import, I guess. But
That's actually good to know for another story that I have. You guys might have heard me talk about a group of people called the Wayfarers before. The Wayfarers are a happy-go-lucky cult that dances around Greyshore, holding festivals every 3 or 4 months. I forgot what the cycle was. But I had made a schedule that fit the calendar for these people, and they raise goats. And so, if that's actually the case, they could probably make a traveling sort of goat cheese that they sell, which is another reason why cities might let them stay around for a tiny bit, is because influx of cheese or something, and cheese is important for feeding people right before the winter seasons, and they show up generally along Veiler and Fall Creek towards the winter seasons, the 2nd and 4th times.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but they do this number. If you remember, it takes them extra long because of how they travel and because they're
Right.
herders. And so they travel, if you were to start from Tide's End, you could actually start from any end of the triangle. If you were to start from Tide's End, though, because they don't go to Sky Pass, Sky Passers think they're a little sketchy, they would take 3 months to travel from Tide's End to...
No place for their sheep to graze either.
Oh no, absolutely, but they don't hang out in the city when they have a party.
That's true.
They hang out outside of the city. The Sky Passers don't even let them do that.
No real room. Where are you gonna
Yeah.
put up your herd? Furthermore, you got to drive your
At the base of
herd
the mountain.
all the way up
No, man,
The mountain
you do it
pass.
you do it at the base of the mountain, and you hold like a camp party kind of thing, and then you attract people to travel down the mountain to hang out like for a day or a night, and then travel
I
back
think it
down.
was safe there.
Actually, yeah, they
Yeah.
would. Well, if you remember, we discussed, was it last week or the week before, there is a perpetual sort of town at the base of
Yeah,
the,
absolutely. You did say that at both ends too, because they're because
The other
in
side's the
mercenary.
Corp.
Yeah, in Mercenary and the Matchmaker, the dude finds a group of people who take a ferry
Yeah,
across
right across.
the Sound in order to get to the Anacostic
Absolutely.
continent.
Indeed.
So you want to take a shot at some of Soulson's questions?
I would. I was gonna go onto the Gorai diet in general. Dates, dried fruits from the south or west, fermented milk from the llamas that they have out there. Also from
Dromedaries,
horses. Also milks from these spiced game meats, usually spiced for preservation in the sun.
Where did they get the game?
Dried from any little tiny game you can find along the skittering edge of the mountainside.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
I mean,
This is
there are
Gorai,
animals that live in the desert. Armadillos.
No, I forgot. Yeah, you said Garavi. I think of the plain, not of the back of the mountain. And the
Lots
back
of
of the mountain
spicy
is where people
sauces,
live.
usually made with the milks and the things like that, and like yogurts and that kind of thing. Things cooked in the yogurts, oven cooked things, and flatbreads, of course, because flatbreads. Man.
Lizards.
Oven flatbreads, though.
So do they do like clay
Clay
ovens?
ovens, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a tander.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Also, we
That's where I
just
eat.
before the show started, lizards and lizard eggs.
Well, they probably use the meat as well.
Yeah.
And it's probably cooked the same way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just that's a weird thing. Not
The
all
reindeer
lizards
milk
eat.
is up in Falkirk, actually. We talked about, or Fall Creek, but the Falkirk people have a thing about the reindeer milk.
They
caramel
ferment
milk.
it.
They ferment it. Yeah, we
Falkirk,
talked about that.
even
There's
for-
really nothing that
for-
comes from Sky Pass because Sky Pass itself is a place that's above the tree line.
Knowledge.
There is no life there.
Yeah, books.
Yeah, there is no life.
Finished goods.
Food that comes from there or anything. It's just like their food traditions come more from the fact that they have to keep their stuff cold. They have to grow it in a greenhouse if they grow it there at all. Otherwise, it's all imported and preserved. So it's pickles and things.
Yeah, Skypass probably only exports. finished
Certainly no,
goods.
yeah, and no food. They do not export food.
Yeah.
I feel like other than the cold, Sky Pass wouldn't notice winter.
It would, fewer people would show up over a period of time.
Right,
The
but what I
pass
mean is
got
like
choked with ice and
so like
snow.
in most places in the world, which is actually something I was gonna bring up earlier, but for 9 months out of the cycle, the diet changes.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah.
Right, because everything's frozen. It's not going to grow.
Yeah, you mean anywhere except for in the United States where we're Princess
No,
of the Universe.
I'm talking about Glacier, where winter
Yes.
is 9 months long.
Fucking
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Except for the most temperate places on. Yeah.
But Sky Pass, because of the nature of where it is, most of its food is already preserved. Like
And
the,
imported,
the
yeah.
diet wouldn't really change.
Correct.
Maybe you'd get different meats. You know?
Maybe more fresh stuff for a period. Because,
Well, leading up to winter.
Yeah.
as the cold
Absolutely.
keeps it preserved up the path.
Right.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
It's just interesting. Yeah,
And yes, Tide's End.
Tide's End, I imagine, is full of fusion food.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say you could probably get you could get anything in Tide's End. Let me just I know
That's
the
about
place. What do you want? I know
Absolutely.
the place, right? Because yeah, it's the trade center. Everything goes through Tide's End. So
I don't know about everything.
well, no, but it is the primary trade hub of
Most exotic things, probably not.
Well, yeah,
Um,
so that's exactly what I was thinking. So, for example, there's probably a better trade between Valor and Kongarai for spices than Tide's End.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly because
Right.
there's no intermediary.
Not only is there no intermediary, there's more demand in Valor than Tide's End.
It's true.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, so there's no reason to pull it through.
Yeah,
There.
exactly.
Means that also, if you're looking for fresh Anacothan spices, you probably want to go.
Lots of seafood.
Well, if you're not going to Anacotha, right, you probably want to go to Valor and not Tide's End, because any Tide's End merchant who doesn't have operations in Valor, which means if you're not fucking Morafar or somebody close to that kind of company's richness,
Yeah, you don't have the
that you're
infrastructure.
going to have old spices because Valor is going to have all of the, or not all of it, but Valor is going to get most of the opportunity to get those spices first. over
because you're.
Tizen traders.
I see it. Yeah, because your line coming in from Congarai is going to go straight to Valor first before.
Yeah, a Tizen trader
Goes
probably
overland
buys
or
from
by
a Valor
ship.
trader who buys from a Congarai trader, and the Tizen guy is never going to meet the Congarai dude who trades him his spices.
All right, and let's wrap up the food thing real quick because I didn't get to collagen yet. So again, collagen culture is being repieced together, so it's not an example of I remember this completely. That said, the pieces that we do have, the things that are remembered from the homeland, not the adaptations that have been made since, but from the homeland. They remember
great grandmother's recipe.
Right.
Yeah.
They remember again flatbreads, but these ones not baked in an oven, more cooked on a flat open surface, like a hot rock. But probably more established than that because we know that there were temples and long-term residences.
The fact that it's a hot rock doesn't mean it's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not just a rock, but I mean like a flat, build the fire underneath.
I'm sorry, would you prefer I said pizza stone?
Thank you. Not a pizza stone.
A hot rock.
That they would eat a lot. They had a lot of lake fishes and freshwater shellfish and that sort of thing. Freshwater sea vegetable, as well as ocean sea vegetable and ocean fish. And primarily the breads took the form of grain cakes, so like seed cakes together and then baked on the pizza stone so that they were dense, right? Kind of thick seed cake.
Yeah.
That you would eat with these fishes and shellfish and stuff harvested from the inland sea there.
You're saying that people, quote unquote, are trying to piece together collagen the culture, right? And I can imagine, of course, to any archaeologist that the Anacotha is your very stereotypical, like, Rome or Greece. It's where, little kids who have read or heard stories about archaeologists are like, Anacotha, hell yeah, the collagen people, they're the lost, awesome Atlantis people who I eventually want to, maybe find ruins or some bullshit like that. That's how I see them
Kind of like
in
Atlantis.
the archaeologist side.
If Atlantis was in the Bermuda Triangle,
yeah,
and everybody knew that if you went to study Atlantis in the Bermuda Triangle, you were likely never coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what my question is now is like in the 1800s.
If I may interrupt. Oh.
Yeah.
Except that you may be saying this.
Yeah.
To a collagen.
Oh yes. Yeah. Absolutely, but in the same way that you might be saying this to an actual Mayan.
Of the third son. It's the descendant of the collagen.
What I'm saying is, Atlantis didn't have any people, no survivors.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely.
Right. So there's no one to go. That's not how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But there is.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
Even if what they remember is itself a story.
Right.
They have a story.
They do have a story.
So it's not, oh, you guys were the magical Atlantis people, because they would be like, no.
Pardon me, no.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We can still be here.
Yeah. So it's actually it's more like Mesoamerica.
Yeah, or like
Mesoamerica's.
Yeah, if you need a Western example in the modern sense, it's Minoa.
Minoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, Minoans.
But actually, Minoan still runs back to what I was going to ask. Are there a group of weird, gentle people out there, right, who have way too much money and time on their hands, right, who look at the collagen stories that are out there with some sort of mysticism?
Yes.
Like Aleister Crowley would have done? Is there a group of people, is there an Order of the Dawn trying to recreate collagen?
Okay, there are those. Yeah, wait, do you mean people who are trying to appropriate it into a sort of neo-mysticism?
Into a neo-collagen, yeah.
Like,
is there a revival movement?
If we could only figure out what they were doing, we could maybe call upon the lost collagen gods and regain some powers.
Absolutely, yeah. Do these people exist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely they do. And then there are also people who are like,
legitimately
reconstructing their
yeah.
past, and those people are different sects, and that's important to the
Yeah.
story.
Is there a waylay in those sects? Some specific, I don't want you to give names. I don't want you to say Aleister Crowley exists, but I want you to maybe tell me, is the potential for those two people to have that little middle ground there where some dude could try to recreate the magic of what they were doing, but is actually an archaeologist and smart enough, and is the potential for that group there, or are the two group sects at odds with each other? Are the archaeologists looking into Kalasha like, there's no fucking way that you could recreate or figure out the magics or things that they were doing and we shouldn't? Are they separate, or is there cross culture between those two different sects that you were saying are different?
Brogine people study for knowledge and not for magic.
Yeah.
The people who are bringing back their own culture are bringing it back because their culture is lost and they want to reconstruct what is obviously fragmented. The people who are seeking power are only seeking power.
Yeah.
And so if you were to go to some traditionalist's place and go, I know that if I can uncover the secrets of Bast, I will be the best sword fighter in the world.
Yeah.
They might talk you down before teaching you the tenets of Bast. Or they might just boot you.
Yeah, they might not take you seriously.
Because they might not take you seriously at all. Like a white guy walking into a hardcore Tai Chi studio and being like, notice me, senpai!
Oh my god.
So
I want to beat some skulls!
Yeah.
So which animal-headed gods stand at the top of the pantheon?
We can't know.
We can't know. Because they were
There are
killed.
only like
What's the
four
leading
surviving.
theory? The leading theory was that the animal-headed gods were destroyed by the Garab.
Okay, but give me a real answer.
They worship Bastet. They worship Set.
And so they're the heads of the...
Those are the two salients.
I think he's saying it's just. I don't think this pantheon has a Zeus.
No, I'm saying that I'm saying that these people
doesn't Zeus
were systematically crushed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Their temples were destroyed,
Okay.
and they're. Well, they
I think he's also saying that there is no hint to that. It's like if all references of Zeus were eliminated from the
if you were to
Hellenish
discover
the next
an undestroyed temple,
one at a time.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're absolutely right.
If you were to discover an undestroyed temple to one of these gods that have had all of their temples destroyed, in the stones of the undestroyed altar is imprinted the memories of the priests that ran these things.
Yeah.
To rebuild the Colossian pantheon, these need to be rediscovered.
Yeah, restored.
And then somebody needs to take this knowledge because they didn't write it down and they put it in the stones, and only the priests held this knowledge. And their people were systematically destroyed, not just like let's go kill the Colossians, but their temples were targeted, and the stones wherein their memories were kept were destroyed by magic. So the people that are now of Colossian descent are the children of children of children, and the ones that they can still talk to, Bastet, Set. I'm certain there are others that I just haven't written that were lessers.
Bast,
but these are
the head
lessers.
of the pantheon.
I'm certain she wasn't, but I think the head of their pantheon was maybe a Brahma-like figure, and exists now in a shadow of a memory because his temples were crushed, stones destroyed, and his bodies with the heads on them broken.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
I know, but he also gave us another answer probably without thinking about it.
Think about a lot
It
of
represents
stuff
itself as a
before
dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so the leader of the pantheon represents itself as
saying.
a
Hey, pro
dude.
tip about Brahma. Brahma decides to be a boy when Brahma decides to be a
Kind
boy.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Kind
It's not exactly true, but yes. Well, let me rephrase that. It is exactly true, but not in the way that you're implying.
Brahma's a boy that likes to be a girl sometimes.
It's not that they haven't retained any of them. It's that the Colossians back in the dark times before.
No, so that would be they haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
I actually don't remember the
Yeah,
Ibis and Conan, though
they
I
were
can
forced.
imagine that it's.
No,
I know that in
I think
Egyptian
he's a
war,
jackal.
the Ibis
No, maybe this is a bird.
Oh
fought
yeah.
Set because the bird fights.
Yep,
this
yep,
thing.
really, really, really long one. Yep, you're totally right. I don't know why I thought Ibis was the jackal-headed one that worked with Set.
Thanks, no Brahma.
That's Anubis.
No, because oh yeah, yeah,
Anubis.
you're right. Totally.
Anubis is the way to the underworld.
Nope, you're totally right.
And very likely any Anubis figure, at least in my mind, the way I've thought of it, any Anubis figure to the Colossians was actually a fetcher of anima.
Sure.
You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't say, "Oh, fetcher of anima." They would call it the guide to the underworld.
Right.
That said, the guide to the underworld was a face of anima's fetcher.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. A fetcher
Anime
Well, yeah.
ultimately makes all people.
No, absolutely. Since we know that to be true, but we also know that other cultures' gods are semi-real. That means that
They are
they're-
real.
Well, yeah. That means by semi-real, I meant that you can kill them, kind of utterly, in the way that some of these Colossian gods have.
Yeah,
it.
they're beings.
Yeah, that they're beings, right? But I like the fact that despite these cultures still having their... Well, no, of course we have Anubis, right? That somebody could still be like, Anubis is actually attached to anima, and if an Anubis follower followed it, they could actually find anima. But that what I like is that anima takes the time to send a fetcher that appears in a way that is culturally relative, that makes them feel comfortable. Quote, quote.
It's probably automatic.
I was gonna say
It's probably just
just
crafted by their
built
brain
in.
just by looking at a fetcher. It takes on the appearance
It-
that
right,
needs
it's
to.
probably-
They
or not.
recognize it as
Fetcher. It's
Interesting. So it's probably the other way
Yes.
around. Anima thinks that it's phenomenal that this entire culture of people can have her fetchers look the exact same way and have it be represented as a single figure
She
or
might
something
have
like
built
that.
us that way.
yeah.
Oh, she might have built us that. Well, no, because
Yeah.
the guys who built.
She
I
might
thought
have built us
mind
to
was-
find looking at them comfortable, and our brain
Mm.
then fills in whatever meaning our culture dictates.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you remember?
Interesting.
Do you remember how the only fetcher in any of our
Is a
lore
little
stories
kid.
is represented?
Oh yeah, the only fetcher that we've represented so far, though you've actually given a way that there are a fetcher of rabbits that takes in the form of a black rabbit with white fur.
I said it was potential that could happen.
Yeah,
It's a fun story.
it's a fun story. Adam's all like, you guys and your fucking rabbits.
Yeah, no, I was actually laughing because it was.
Rabbits have no souls.
Well, rabbits are apparently a special case, just like snakes and cats.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about snakes. And cats are.
Maybe.
The fact that cats are special is also why Bast can't possibly be the head of that pantheon.
Yeah,
That's
that's actually a good point. I wonder if actually Bast is
That's
an original animal-headed god in the first place, and she just didn't fit in real fucking perfectly because of the animalness.
I don't know enough about that.
I don't know enough about Bast either. I'm not saying this is true. What I'm saying is that
So
how
if
did-
Bast has
How did
this,
the Colossian gods that are still
Yeah.
actually present in worship, how did they escape destruction?
well, exactly. So if this
Considering
is the
that
case
the
too,
Colossians did
if-
not write anything down,
if
and
my
instead
theory is to
only
be
the
taken-
elevated amongst
I'll
them,
talk over each other.
Sorry.
the priest class,
Yeah.
could encode memory,
Yeah.
and the
yeah.
priest class were being targeted, as were their memories.
Yeah. Interesting. If my theory was taken into account, that might mean that some of these surviving animal-headed gods are other cultures' gods as well. And maybe
Well,
they
how many
managed
cultures
to
of
escape
Colossian were there?
destruction.
We've actually talked about it before. There is a cult on,
Yeah.
well, all over the archipelago. In fact, it pops up a lot. It's pretty harmless. But there is a cult that believes that that what we see as gods are, in fact, all the same force manifesting itself on the planet.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
There's a
that's
cult that believes
That
that.
they're all aspects. That it's the one God with the million faces.
Correct.
Yeah.
Those guys are weird.
They are weird.
There are not very many of them around,
They
right?
pop up all the time.
Yeah, they're weird.
Yeah, very
I
weird.
think
They're
that
like,
maybe they're.
They're kind of like this guy right here in their weirdness.
I have a theory.
Yeah. It's an interesting theory. Too. So anyway, so okay, the narrator answer, Sword Saint. Yes, there are more than 2. The guidebook answer, there will probably be 4 or 5 represented in the guidebook tops. The creepy, mysterious lore answer. They were all driven away and destroyed. Who knows where they are in the world?
Do we know which ones that you're going to include yet?
I know I'm using Bassett's set. I think I had another one written down that was a bear.
I think I remember this one.
So I had a bear, I had a Bassett set.
Didn't you have a
likely to
that's
do
bad.
a guide that is like the fetcher I described? So like a guide spirit. I don't think I have any more off the top of my head. I might have been talking about a Sobek at some point, but I don't know that I'm going to do that.
You were talking about a Sobek at one point, but you didn't know what
I wasn't
exactly
sure,
you
yeah,
do with
what I was
Sobek,
gonna do with
because
them.
your original thought was something having to do with like eating or gluttony. You went into more detail than that. Don't take my poor description of
Well,
what you were writing
I
to
have a bunch of notes
to discolor you, but you were thinking
that
of
were
a Sobek.
stubbed for the meow. I had a bunch of stubbed notes for certain gods that I didn't completely fill out yet. But it was like, oh, this is where this guy is.
You were,
And
there
then
was
I have
also
a
a bird.
place in.
I forgot what you were thinking of. Also, a bird who was a crane god.
Might have been an ibis sort of thing too. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll look into it. Saint, for sure.
Yeah, of course we'll look into the Conan stories. By the way,
Mm.
we like Conan stories.
He means the books, though. At least I think
Hi,
I'm
Weston.
not
Yes,
sure.
these 2 are related.
These 2.
These 2.
What are you talking about? Me?
Weston 647580 was asking if we were.
Us too?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and Crane is ibis, right? Yeah, so
Excellent.
that's what I was thinking. The first time I took LSD?
No.
Yeah.
No, they can't, Weston.
uh,
Not that kind of show.
Yeah. So,
maybe if you come later tonight at maybe like 11:30.
You can get an answer to that question, just not right now.
just not on this show.
Yeah. Animal-headed gods of Kalaja.
I'll have to check it out. Sword Saint. I do
Oh,
have.
yeah. Damn, I forgot about that.
There are also a couple.
That's a really good Conan run, by the way. The Dark Horse run.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that one out. I like those. I know that there are other elder gods too that you didn't talk about. Not just for player-wise, you just wanted to keep them a secret, but other ones that you were in the middle of like developing before other shit distracted you and shit like that.
Other gods?
Yeah, other elder gods. So of course there were
I think
other
I
elder gods
already did this. I
culture-wise,
think
but,
I've already gone through all the elder gods.
You
that
did?
I'm willing to.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
All right, I didn't
Like
realize that had
we
been
did.
done.
We did that last week or week before.
Yeah, it was week before, I think. We had the actual
which
list
explains
open
why I
on
did.
the-
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go, Sword Saint. The ones that I've blown out are set and Bastet, or Bast, same deal. I know I had a bear guy I wanted to do.
It's a cool name too, and I can't remember it. It's just sad.
Right, but yeah, I had a bear dude. And I have lore hooks for a lot of the other stuff, but it was Lost Histories. It's expansion stuff. It's the Lost Mysteries of Anakatha, right?
Yeah.
So you can expect to get that stuff then.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other new questions? Anything else? I got through all the cuisines.
Yeah, you did. You got all through all the cuisines. Yeah, you did. It's not important.
Who makes the best music?
That's the Wayfarers. I can answer that question.
I was gonna say. So by best, do you mean like?
I accept that answer, but I think that's a dangerous answer.
You would also accept that answer too, wouldn't you? Oh God, oh boy. The Wayfarers.
There's a schedule down below, Weston, and I think each one of us has a different version, and they're all different stories. So you have to ask 3 times. So best music.
Yeah.
I think if you want like concertos, really refined, multi-layered, also expensive instruments, finely wrought instruments, that's going to be a Valyria orchestra, right? If you want some raucous, down-home music, right? That's any dock bar in
Sure,
Tides
but that's
End
probably
or Crown's
that's
Rock.
probably drum, fife, and whatever the ukulele.
The stringed version of that area is
yes,
absolutely. Absolutely. Likewise, Crown's Rock has a middle-of-the-road version of, snooty orchestra. No, it's chamber music. It's great. It's right.
They're probably singers.
Best
though.
they can.
Choral.
And sometimes maybe they were even all right.
Yeah,
I'm
it's probably
certain they have a
choir singing.
choral because they have a
Chapel,
they have a
cathedral.
well, they besides the cathedral, which is
Cathedrals are made from music.
is that ecclesiastic music? Is that the right word? They also have a players club, and the players club is really
Also,
about staged entertainment of all sorts.
Tides End is a
Right, and
fishing
so-
town, and a lot of fishermen, a lot of their jobs require shouting orders because this is pre.
Well, you got shanties as well.
Yeah, so this is a pre-industrialization of things like whistles and bells, and so you would have your one big on-ship bell, but you would also have a lot of the people whistling the and the ahoy and other bullshit and sea shanties and other bullshit
Oh, yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
So
well,
we know chanties.
Chanties
are
are
a big
about-
deal,
Yeah, chanties are about specifically keeping you in rhythm while you
I
do
could
your
see
rope
Tides
work
End
and your-
being a singing capital.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
certain there's a lot of
music.
music in
Yeah,
general.
well,
People
I-
make music while they work, etc.
Chanties weren't seen as the height of art.
Right. So that's actually why I drew a distinction and said if you want, some artsy music, some really refined music, it's likely to be Valyria. If you want to hear more like those sort of Gregorian chant or the stuff they would do in the maths in Anathem,
Yeah.
let's just throw that in Sky Pass because it's fun for the Broggians,
It's all that rock. It's
all
super
that-
rhythm.
So the Broggians probably do that, some sort of
Throat singing?
focusing and
Double
I'll,
octodes.
I'll link it to you.
Yeah.
It's the kind of stuff that the guys in the maths and
Okay. Yeah.
jam, crossed with a little Gregorian. And then the Falkirk, they sing, but I would imagine their music is way more. I think they have two kinds. I think they have things that are like reels,
Yeah.
that are very lighthearted and spinny and uppity, and those are for festivals. And then they probably have soloists that do chants that are like reverential,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and those are not for fun.
Mm-hmm. Those are But the best music, the music that attracts the most people to party and to have drinking times and festivals, those are the Wayfarers.
The Valyria sing, groups of them sing. They do multi-level vocalizations. They
Nice.
know that some of this was religious, though it's very. There are only a few like standards that are sung to Set, and even fewer to Bastet because it wasn't the kind of worship that you do for Bastet.
You talking about Colossians?
Yes.
You said Valyria.
I'm sorry, I meant Colossians. I was reading. So yeah, I'm sorry, I meant Colossians. So the leftover Colossian traditional music is multi-level, harmonious singing with very little accoutrement, very little support, though timekeeping and dance, right? So drum and dance, clapping, dance, that sort of thing. But their music is interleaved vocal lines, and they know that this came from religious practice, but there's no one doing new ones right now. They're just reiterating the old ones, and those are few because this was not really what you did with Bastet. Bastet was more about the dance and the fight. So the songs that they know are about that. They support that rather than being the remembrances that were for the other gods and goddesses. So they do have music, though, that is not religious, that is based in that style. That has been the new stuff they're making. That's all. It's non-religious. It's just in that style. And then also asked about Valyria tribal.
Yeah.
That's actually why I said Valyria instead of Colossian. I was talking about Colossian first.
My brain does that too.
Valyria music, however, is I hadn't really given it a lot of thought, but it's probably more chant, group chant, but not as interleaved, not as musical, and more about reaffirming what they're doing at the time. So like sea chanties on land.
Spoken poetry.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Work songs, but not dolesome work songs. More like.
But it's the harvest time, so
right.
it's the harvest songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
right, exactly.
Like at the very beginning of Frozen with the ice picking song.
Right.
So the best songs are like capoeira or Muay Thai. Exactly. That's the only ones left though. They don't have any songs of praise necessarily. They only remember the ones that are for the event.
Yeah, and I guess you should also talk about maybe the slave culture and their music in Baylor, because I guess that would also arise from real life examples that we have.
Yeah, we did. We got that. Actually, Snipes typing it up right now.
But
right. Well, and then remember, Baylor is a new city that was built by people who came from other places. So it's all mooshed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are more than two. I'm sure there's variants.
There are millions. I really was talking more about what each town's known for. So like,
salients.
Are there cultural instruments? Like what's if I go to Felkirk, if I go to a Felkirk,
you're up in Fall Creek, you go to a Felkirk, you go, show me the instruments of your people.
Yeah, what are they going to say?
They will show you pipes, flutes, but large form, drum, stretched high drums.
All wood.
And hollow wood, like hollow out the whole of the bowl of a tree, and then drill it so that if you hit in different places, it has different tones, that kind of thing. Polish it out.
Yes, Wes.
Wood, tone, that sort of thing.
Thank you, baby.
And then, nice, Rose, thanks. Whereas in Baylor, you have far more of those finely wrought instruments, tight string instruments. What are they called? They're made of glass. The Scylla.
Yeah, glass piano.
Glass piano. There's another word.
Glass
clavia.
Yeah.
It's glass harmonica. Yeah, it's clavia.
Clavia. That sort of thing.
Yeah, clavia. Wow, that's kind of a complicated instrument. Are there any other
blown glass vessels with different levels?
But there's
of fluid.
There's a clockwork. I mean, Are there other? Are there pianos?
I wouldn't say pianos. Probably something like a harpsichord, though. Yeah. In Baylor.
Hammer, dulcimer.
Absolutely. Yep. Certainly dulcimers.
I know you were saying that in Congarai they have 3 to 2-stringed long guitar-like things like I don't know what they're called, which is
I'll bet you there is
because
a variant of stringed
their kind of poetry
available in some place or another over the landmass we have.
Yeah, good point.
Mm-hmm. Bouzouki's?
Yeah, certainly a bouzouki, but probably not a hurdy-gurdy.
No.
Hurdy-gurdy is a bit complicated.
Shut that goddamn bouzouki player. All right. Any other questions?
How many different games do you think you've played in your life, Sniper?
Oh,
shit tons.
Thousands.
Yeah, are we counting just analog games or just video games or both? Because if it's both...
There's over 800 in my Steam library, and my Steam library is, 10 years old?
10 years
old.
Yeah. I've been playing games for a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
A lot longer than that. Perhaps longer than many of the people in our audience have been alive.
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
Oh, more than thousands.
Yeah, maybe
no fucking
hundreds
question.
Of thousands.
Right, at this point.
But, to be fair, it's part of the job, too. So
absolutely.
Yeah. You like music?
Quite a fucking
You like
few.
partying?
You should come hang out with the Wayfarer.
The Wayfarer is literally worship.
Nobody plays a flute like a Wayfarer.
Nobody.
That's true.
Nobody plays
it's
any instrument like a Wayfarer.
They're inspired by something otherworldly.
Absolutely. Wayfarers are great.
A shot ton. That's like when you're drunk and you've had a shit.
And you've had a shit?
Yeah, a shot ton.
A shot ton. Yep. Indeed.
Well, we're hitting 5, so it's probably a good enough time.
For a fly-by-night show.
Exactly.
For a show that we were worried we wouldn't have any content, at least we managed to push it.
Yeah, for sure.
We're the main gypsy subcultures, the Wayfarers.
Well, yeah. that are not named. The wandering hunters live off the land types.
Yeah.
There are no named groups, but we do know that there are some, and that they basically the only ones that are currently extant that are not. How about this? There are peoples that live in the plains to the north and east of Valor, and there are people that live country style, so to speak, just out of touch, all over the southern expanse of Grey Shore.
You said something. Okay, I was gonna say, aren't there some in the mountains of Fall Creek?
Yes.
Yes,
Like
and
deep in
there's-
the fucking mountains.
Yes, but that's
And
because
the
so
southern
Fall
shore.
Creek
And
is like
also in the mountains south of Vale.
right, and Fall Creek doesn't have discrete boundaries to
No,
their city.
absolutely
It
not.
just sort of peters out.
So
Right.
some of those places, even some of the people in the town of Fall Creek know about some of those, and just other people don't because they didn't live in Fall Creek long enough. They have no reason to know, Bo Job Schmo who lives up on the high mountain, and Bo Job Schmo appears one day while a very leery trader comes to town. And he's like, "Who the fuck is that dude coming down from the mountain looking like he's some bear man?" Like, I can understand that. That's
man.
The real question though is,
Yeah.
upon seeing someone like that, are you like, oh, he's a blank, and what's the blank if
Yeah.
Do we have a raider writer term? That's not in
The
Anaconda.
guys from the mountains are generally assumed to be Falkirk these days.
Yeah.
Okay, they're assumed to be Falkirk. So, all right, that's actually how I assumed that people would treat those guys, because unless they're like really out of touch and they don't like the Falkirk, they're not going to be considered barbarian or like
Right.
any
The thing is,
lesser. They're not
we don't
killing
have any
people.
human communities on Grey Shore that have never ever been in touch with the other civilizations.
Yeah, and if they choose to not be in touch, they have chosen.
They have
not
chosen to. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Except for the
so
Raider
they're
Riders.
more like the deep Appalachia or something like that knows there's a town over there. They just don't go there.
Yeah. Also, in Anaconda, there are these people who I'm calling the Raider Riders because of a little fuck up I made a couple of streams back. But there are people who manage to get horses from the haunted Calajan Plain somehow, in some way, right? Who ride in small familial groups.
Right, and raise.
In the Goravi Plains. And so those are kind of like those ranger guys that you're talking about. But so far we don't have any defined groups like the Dun and Dane, which I'm assuming you're getting your idea from. We don't have like Tolkien Dunedain rangers out there. There could be
There may be a group, but they're not presently salient. So if you would like to write them for a campaign, you could, and then they would be there for that campaign.
Yeah, there could be actually we might have touched up on it. Aren't there like land scouts for Dunswich?
Absolutely. Dunwich and Innsmouth.
And Innsmouth?
And they have
Those
literal rangers
Yeah,
who
those
are
people are
essentially
who you're talking about right there.
But they're
They're
more
the,
like Lewis and Clark.
Well,
Yeah,
right,
they're
and
less like Aragorn, more like Luke.
and they're not seen as like an outfit. They're not like, oh, you're the D&I Rangers. It's a D&I man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like
And-
it's not the same thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they're land inspectors, and that's because DNI is sort of, land agency here on Grey Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want something like the Dunedain, the closest we have right now to a talked about group is these rangers that work for Dunswich and Innsmouth, who are landowners and providers who basically scout land that is valuable, work that land, and then sell that land.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Really,
I'm Verde.
really
Hi.
good. Map it, plot it,
Right.
mark it, number it,
Right. Reconnoiter, reclaim,
Mm-hmm.
sell it.
resell.
Yeah. So you could also say why.
I'm gonna make a D&I shirt.
Dude, you should
That's
totally.
cool.
DNI.
Dunwich and Innsmouth shirt?
Like in the seal.
Yeah.
Reconnoiter,
reclaim,
reclaim, resell.
totally
That's
make
rad.
We will work on those shirts because I've been on their butts because it's getting close to Christmas, and Christmas is the time you
Would be a
want to
good
buy
idea.
T-shirts.
Oh,
This
wow,
is
yeah.
what?
Our bit rate is falling dramatically. So while we stutter to the end, yeah, we're gonna call the end of the stream now.
Yep.
Why?
You guys have been awesome.
Catch you
Big
guys
fat
later.
thanks.
Come back.
I'm literally
Follow.
I'm literally watching this. So 15 minutes from now, when it actually streams in, you'll know what happened.
Yep.
I gotta go reboot the router.
I will see you on the flip side.
Peace,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Damn. What the fuck's going on with our internet?